Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We'll declare the meeting open at 5:02 p.m. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Wurundjeri people of the Noongar Nation, paying respects to elders past, present and emerging. This Ordinary Council meeting is being live-streamed and digitally recorded in accordance with Council policy. Members of the public are reminded that no other visual or audio recording of this meeting by any means is allowed without the permission of the chairperson. Whilst every endeavour has been made to only record those who are actively participating, loud comments or noises from the gallery may be picked up in the recording. And as you can see by the new screens, we are trialling different equipment this evening, and we ask for your patience as we become familiar with the new servers and audiovisual technology. Item 2, attendance. Our councillors, we have the Deputy President to my right, Lisa Glover. We have on the left, Councillor John Bailey, then Councillor Peter Gubler, Councillor Anita Lindeman, Councillor Anne Mitchell, and Councillor Grant Patrick. And for staff, we have on my left here Chief Executive Officer Gary Hunt, Director of Finance and Corporate Kim Dolzadelli, Director of Operations Ross Marshall, Manager Corporate Services Lauren Clifford, and may I make an apology, Lauren, for getting your name wrong at the last meeting. And over to the left there doing all our recording is Sam Farquhar, Administration Officer Corporate Services. Item 2.1, apologies. There are no apologies for today's meeting. Item 2.2, approve leave of absence. Councillor Alexis Davey was granted a leave of absence at the Ordinary Council meeting held on the 22nd of November 23. And similarly, Councillor Diana Shand was granted a leave of absence at the same Ordinary Council meeting held on the 22nd of November 2023. Item 2.3, are there any applications for leave of absence? There are no applications. Item 3, announcements from me, the presiding member. I have two to make. We have some grant funding. We've been successful in attracting grant funding of $409,656 to help eradicate blackberries throughout the Shire, or 3 shires, it's a joint application, for Donnybrook, Collie and Dardanup. There's been blackberries identified as a biosecurity hazard, and this project aims to provide support to landowners to control blackberries and revegetate the areas previously inundated and conserve and protect biodiversity of the vegetation along waterways. And they'll do that through fencing of livestock. Without funding, a large proportion of landowners will continue to struggle to control the blackberries. And the second announcement is I had the privilege to present the end-of-year awards to the primary and secondary schools of Donnybrook High School. I was totally impressed by the staff and the children at the school who clearly reflected the school's values of consider, aspire, respect, engage and care. I was totally looked after the whole time I was there, and the school captains who presided over both graduation ceremonies were outstanding. The Shire presented the Frank Arbuthnot Award for the 65th time since its inception in 1958. Frank Arbuthnot was a music teacher, active in the Donnybrook Bailing Up Social Club, as well as doing his teaching, and from 1946 until 1957. And when he passed away, his loss was felt deeply by the community, and they pulled together to create this award for Year 10 students. Like Frank, the award goes to students that are passionate about the arts, and Chloe Watson was the recipient of the award. Item 4, declaration of interest. In accordance with Division 6, Subdivision 1 of the Local Government Act 1995, care should be taken by all councillors to ensure that a financial, impartiality or proximity interest is declared and that they refrain from voting on any matter which is considered to come within the ambit of the Act. I have 2 expressions of interest for the items in tonight's agenda. They both relate to our CEO, Gary Hunt. The first is for item 9.1.9, because the applicant for that item is known to the CEO, Gary Hunt. And the second is for item 9.3.1, and that interest relates to the fact that our CEO holds a temporary position, and that can be considered a financial interest. Now, our CEO is not required to leave the room, are you, Gary? No, but the interest has been expressed. Councillors, are there any other expressions of interest? Thank you. So item 5.1, responses to previous public questions taken on notice. And you'll see there's a number of questions that we've now included in today's minutes. Item 5.2, public question time. Now, we normally allow 15 minutes for question time. I'm adopting an altered process for this item to promote the most efficient and effective use of the time. The procedure now will ask community members to register your intention to ask a question and whether you will ask 1 or 2 questions. And then if you have been a bit later and haven't had an opportunity to enter your name on the register, we will ask for questions from the public gallery if there's sufficient time. So can you please still write your questions on the form provided and leave that form on the podium once you've completed your question, and that will allow us to provide accurate record keeping. Having said all this, there's still a preference for submitting your questions online prior to the meeting to allow for a complete and accurate response to be prepared. Online questions will also be included in the minutes of the meeting. The questions that we have for this have been submitted for this meeting. The first is from community member Sian Blackledge. Her question was, can the attachment, which is one document and downloaded, are too large, be divided into categories? For example, the minutes and documents for previous meeting as one, the attachments and... Sorry. I'll start that second sentence again. For example, the minutes and documents for previous meeting as one, the attachments and minutes for other committees, for example, the very important fire and emergency paperwork, as a separate category, expenditure and financials in a standalone category, and the attachments required for upcoming meetings as another. In this way, the attachments will be easier to read and work through. The response to that question is dividing the attachments into categories would require substantial restructuring and be quite labour intensive. Careful consideration will be given to this matter during the next review of the agenda and minutes structure, but thank you for your input. A second question from Sian Blackledge. In regard to item 9.1.9 on the agenda, due to some previous development applications and subsequent issues and changes where no site visits have been conducted, can the Shire President please organise a site visit prior to approval? And yes, that site visit occurred on the 12th of December, yesterday. The next question, thank you, Sian. The next question is from Julianne Hilbers. How will Council assess the cumulative effect on neighbours and the community of the multiple activities being undertaken and planned for Preston Vale Estate? Major extractive industry operating Monday to Friday from 1 and potentially 2 sites, and event venue operating potentially 7 days a week for 24 hours a day. Of particular concern is impact of noise, given this property is located in a valley where noise is funnelled up and along the valley. The response? Proposed conditions of this development application require an acoustic report to consider the cumulative effects of operations occurring on site. as well as any noise attenuation measures that may need to be built into the new building or noise management measures that may need to be implemented to ensure compliance with the state's noise legislation. A second question from Julianne Hilbers. If and when the approved/proposed activities of Preston Vale Estate are in place, there will be increased traffic, equipment and people on the property. Given the Preston River Valley is supported by volunteer firefighters, what contribution is Preston Vale Estate required to make towards actively supporting the community in responding to bushfires? The response: planning legislation requires consideration of bushfire risks where developments are proposed within a designated bushfire-prone area. This development is located outside of a designated bushfire-prone area. The provisions of the Shire's existing fire break order would therefore apply. Although the applicant has indicated at the site visit that the water in their dam is used for firefighting on land in the locality, this is a separate matter that does not form part of the planning considerations for this application. The next question is from Jay McCormick. How will the noise assessment that is being proposed to assess the event venue account for the lived experiences of residents along Preston River Valley and actual topography of the landscape, mindful that ground truthing over different time periods and days of the week, times of the year, does not always match computer-based modelling? Response: as mentioned before, a condition is proposed that require an acoustic report. The outcome of the modelling and the details of the acoustic report will further inform any noise attenuation measures that may need to be built into the new building or noise management measures that may need to be implemented to ensure compliance with the state noise legislation. Also from Jay McCormick, what compliance monitoring activities will be undertaken by the Shire in relation to meeting any specified conditions such as limits on patron numbers, noise, access to the extraction sites by patrons, environmental impacts on local wetlands and river? The response: compliance with conditions is a routine function of our planning department on an as-needs basis. Conditions where patron numbers are limited or where there are environmental concerns are routinely underpinned by additional supporting approvals such as liquor licensing, on-site effluent disposal system, and location and design and public building legislation. I have, in addition to that, two more questions. These questions are from Shane Sercombe. Did the significant donors of the original Apple Fun Park equipment ever place a caveat or claim of ownership over the equipment? The response: there is no record on file. The second question: generally, local governments receive their annual audited financials by December. Has the Shire of Donnybrook Baling Up received its auditor's report, and when is the audit exit meeting expected to occur? And I can answer that if you're happy. The audit has been completed and the audit exit meeting was on Friday, the 8th of December. Well done. Okay, we will then move into our register of questions from the floor. And the first question will be from Angelo Legitio. And can you say that again for me, please? Legitimacy, I beg your pardon.
Oh, I've just destroyed it. I want to do that. Come on, I'm only a short-legged person. Okay, fantastic. Oh, okay, I'll hold it. It doesn't want to do what we want. My name's Angelo Legiudice from Lot 4409, Legiudice Road, Kirrip. My question is about the Meliora Festival in Newlands, farm party, if you like. I've just in recent times, I actually got some communication in regards to the festival, and it was only through the town site. But my question is in regards to the landholders surrounding this property, or this where this festival is going to be held. We have not been notified of this festival going ahead. So I'm just wondering when the landholders will be notified with 15 days to the festival. So...
Thank you. I will pass that on to Director of Operations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. If I may, thank you, Mr. Legiudice, for your question. We've been advised by the event holders that they've sent out letters to all landowners within a 10-kilometre radius. From what you're saying, is obviously you haven't received one?
No, I haven't received one, and I've had phone calls from other people that are in the surrounding area, and they haven't either. So this is a great concern.
Yeah, so I'm repeating advice that we've received from them. So we can look into that further if you like.
Yeah, that would be greatly appreciated because, you know, it is a high risk time of the year. It's been the driest, I'm trying to not sell you any duds here, but the driest season that we've had for a long time. You know, the other question, there is a couple of questions.
One question.
One question?
Yep.
Relating to this item? Okay.
We've only got 3, so go for it.
I guess there has been, what's the names? What are they called? Conditions put on the event in regards to compliance. My concern is about fire. Is there enough firefighting appliances on the property to mitigate any fire risks?
Director of Operations.
Thank you, Madam President, if I may. Again, thank you, Mr. Legiudice. Part of the application includes a number of plans, as you can imagine. And in particular, we have asked for, you know, I'm just trying to see here. So open fires are strictly forbidden. So there's no local fires, no gas bottles, no fireworks, etc. And I'm just looking as far as they're out of the bushfire prone zone. They actually moved the event for that. I'm just seeing if there's a fire. Sorry, there's a risk management plan as well that is part of that assessment. So as far as having firefighting equipment on site, there's actually nothing in my documents that say they have to or have. But I agree, it would probably be quite practical to do that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Director of Operations.
No more?
No more.
Okay.
If we have time.
Okay.
After the other people have asked their questions. Could I ask Julianne Hilbers?
Thank you. My name's Julianne Hilbers. I am a member of Save Preston River Valley. We have 140 members. 109 of those live in the Preston River Valley, majority in the Yabberup and Loudon area. My question is, the applicant nominates up to 20 events. This is in regards to the Preston Vale 9.1.9. The applicant nominates up to 20 events, but the Shire Planner has advised he has asked for no limit to their number of events. He has also nominated 100 to 200 patron maximum, but has asked, I believe there was some no limit on that as well. So that could mean events 24/7, at least with a minimum of up to 200 people at a time. How will the number and types of events and number of patrons be determined as appropriate should this application be considered appropriate?
Thank you, Mrs Hilbers. I will hand it over to the Director of Operations, but I believe the limit is in the we capped the application at 150.
Thank you, Madam President. If I may, thank you for the question. Yeah, we've actually, there is some conflicting information in the application, but the officers have basically reviewed the application. They're quite happy to approve it and limit it to 150 packs or patrons. So any change to that?
How about the number of events?
Separate question.
Can you use the microphone, please?
I asked in terms of the number of events as well as the number of patrons.
Your question was how would they be monitored?
Or how would they be determined what's the appropriate? If he's asking for an unlimited number of events, how are you determining what is the appropriate number of events?
There is no limit. So as far as the approval goes and under the planning guidelines.
Okay, it's just in the application it says up to 20 events per year.
Yeah, that was just, I think that was probably more for our information. That's okay. But there is no limit.
Sian Blackledge, would you like to come up and ask your... Am I pronouncing your name? Sian, sorry. Sian Blackledge.
Sian Blackledge. I live at Brookhampton, and my questions are regarding 9.1.9 again. Part of it is some different figures have been brought up. So the traffic assessment was done on 100 guests. The proposal is 150. Once again, the traffic assessment was done on weekends only. Whilst page 471 of the attachment states both weekend and weekday events. And they were talking about 4 events per week, not just on the weekend. Is there a reason for all that discrepancy in information? Thank you.
Can I just... Are you clear with that question?
Yes, similar to the previous.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Madam President, if I may. Thank you, Sian, for your question. So similar to my previous answer, we acknowledge that there is some information that is conflicting. So the officers have assessed the overall application and conditioned it accordingly.
Please use the microphone.
I'm sorry. I just feel there's a big difference between having events on a weekend and then events during the week when there's also school buses on that route, which haven't been taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Sian. That's the end of the register of questions we have. Would anyone else have any questions? Angelo?
Just to finish off on the same item, I just would like to know who is monitoring the event and have the conditions been met?
Thank you. Director of Operations, would you
Thank
be
you,
able to
Madam
respond?
President, if I may. So to answer the first question regarding who's monitoring the event, do you mean from a compliance point of view or... Yeah, so from a compliance point of view, we will be, the Shire will be. And as an example, myself and the EHO will be attending site on the 28th of December to carry out inspections and compliance checks. There was another question you had.
Have all the conditions been met?
As far as have all the conditions been met, at this stage I'll confirm no, they haven't all been met.
That raises another question.
Can we please use the microphone?
If these conditions haven't been met, all been met, what is the status of the approval?
I can answer that. There is no approval until the conditions have been met, and it's probably similar, just to give you an example, as a planning application. So we provide planning approval, it's conditioned. You can't actually do anything until you meet all the conditions. So an event is no different.
Okay, that's fair enough. Look, just in regards to, making sure that it is compliant, that's, I would say, when would the landholders know?
Look, I don't think there's any obligation to advise the landowners, but maybe it's something we can take on notice and consider.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leguzzi.
Are there any more questions from the gallery? A little bit of time. No? Thank you. Moving on to item 6, presentations, 6.1. Are there any petitions? Are there any petitions to be received by council? There are no petitions. Item 6.2, presentations. There are no presentations. Item 6.3, deputations. There are no deputations for this meeting. On to item 7, confirmation of minutes. Item 7.1 is the ordinary meeting of council, 22nd of November 2023. Would someone like to move the executive recommendation? Councillor Mitchell. Second. Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Mitchell, do you need to speak to the motion? Councillor Lindeman? We'll put it to vote. All in favour? Thank you. Item 7.2, the Bushfire Advisory Committee meeting of the 26th of October 2023. Would someone like to move the executive recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Second. Thank you, Councillor Gubler. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Gubler? All in favour? Item 7.3, Local Emergency Management Committee meeting. Would someone like to move the executive recommendation? Councillor Bailey, and seconded by Councillor Mitchell. Councillor Bailey, would you like to speak to the minutes? Thank you. Councillor Mitchell. All in favour? Moving on to item 8, reports of committees. We have no reports for committees. Item 9, reports of officers. Item 9.1, Director of Operations. Item 9.1.1 is a request for 2022 to 23 bushfire season debrief. Would someone like to move the committee recommendation? Moved by Councillor Glover and seconded by Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Glover, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Lindeman? All in favour? Item 9.1.2, the review of Council Policy EMERG/CP-2, permits for road verge burning. Would someone like to move the committee recommendation? Councillor Mitchell, seconded. Councillor Patrick. Councillor Mitchell, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Patrick. All in favour? Item 9.1.3, development of operational guidelines, chainsaws. Would someone like to move the committee recommendation? Councillor Bailey. Seconded Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Bailey, would you like to speak? Councillor Lindeman.
I actually did have a question. Just at the next BFAC meeting, do we have any dates that could be inserted in there?
No, we don't.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Who's in favour? Carried. Item 9.1.4, establishment of default UHF sector channels. Would someone like to move? The recommendation is Councillor Glover and Councillor Gubler will second. Councillor Glover, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Gubler. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.1.5, Development of Fatigue Management Guidelines. Would someone like to move the committee recommendation? Councillor Patrick. Seconded, Councillor Mitchell. Councillor Patrick, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Mitchell? All in favour? Carried. Item 9.1.6, the review of BFAC terms of reference, and that is the the Donnybrook Baling Up Bushfire Advisory Committee. Would someone like to move the committee recommendation? Councillor Mitchell, seconded Councillor Patrick. Councillor Mitchell, would you like to speak to the Councillor Patrick, no. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.1.7, rail corridor maintenance. Would someone like to move the committee recommendation? Councillor Lindeman. Would someone like to second the recommendation? Councillor Patrick. Councillor Lindeman, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Patrick. Would anyone else like to speak against the motion? Councillor Bailey.
Through the chair, I think this is inadequate. I think we could have done better with the motion here. You know, I believe ARC should be down speaking to the brigades, staff and councillors to look at the fire danger mitigation through our area.
So would you like to make an amendment, or would you like to ask the question?
Could I refer it back to Roscoe there?
Director of Operations, would you like to respond?
Madam President, if I may, obviously Councillor Bailey and I had a chat about this earlier. We put together an understanding of what I think an amended motion would be, or if we're going to actually add to the current motion. And may I read that out? Is that all right, Councillor Bailey?
If you could, yes, I left early with my computer.
No
Thank you.
It's on the screen, sir? Oh, there we go. So that Council requests the Chief Executive Officer to invite the appropriate officers from the ARC infrastructure to attend a council meeting, and not necessarily a council meeting, but a meeting of councillors, for the proposed purpose of providing information relating to their proposed mitigation strategies within the rail corridors in the Shire of Donnybrook Baling Up. I might actually just add to that a little bit. Sam, there's another one that I sent to you.
Ross, Okay.
Okay.
This is for Councillor Bailey to say he likes it or he doesn't like it.
No, I believe we discussed inviting the fire brigade who raised the issue out there to the meeting, and I'd like to defer back to Ross to see what he's got on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Director of Operations.
Read out the other one. So request the Chief Executive Officer to invite the appropriate officers from ARC Infrastructure to attend a meeting with councillors, Shire officers, including CESM, CFCO, Max Walker, and Mumbalup Nogarup Volunteer Bushfire Brigade representatives for the purpose of informing the Shire of Donnybrook Baling Up of ARC's proposed mitigation strategies and responsibilities within rail corridors.
We'll just get that typed up so that we can all see it.
Would it be appropriate if I asked a question in regards to that's marked number 3? So is that to replace the current number 3 in the recommendation? Okay, thank you. Is it possible I could ask another question in regards to this
Yes,
proposed? It's going to be voted in as part of a substantive motion, not amendment.
it would be an amendment first.
It is changing the nature of the recommendation. It's not.
I'll just pass that over to CEO.
I don't believe it's the essence of the original recommendation was to invite them to address the Shire, or the representative of the Shire. This is inviting the bushfire volunteers who represent the Shire in looking after bushfires. So I see this as an amendment to the original proposal.
Would there be a proposed date for this to occur, or is it perpetuating forever?
Well, just like the other component, no, there wasn't a date. We'd have to liaise with ARC to be able to achieve it. The intent would be ASAP.
Councillor Bailey, are you happy with that wording?
The wording is excellent, thank you. That should do the job, and I'd like to thank the Director of Operations for his assistance and the time to get that right.
Now, I think that is a motion. It's moved. Okay. Would someone like to second the amendment? Councillor Glover? Would any, Councillor Bailey, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just quickly through the chair, we've got a problem there, and everybody's aware of it, and it's been raised by the local fire brigade with the pig body out there, and this issue goes right through the council, the shooter through the Shire. So the sooner we get on top of it and start making progress, the better, and we can all work together to make that happen.
Thank you. Councillor Glover, would you like to speak to the motion?
I would concur with what Councillor Bailey is saying. Fire mitigation is a problem for us all, and this is a shared responsibility, or a responsibility for people to take action for what is rightfully theirs and what they should be doing as well. And this just helps to share that load with our Shire and our landholders as well. So I would support this motion.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to the amendment, the motion? We'll just put it to vote. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.1.8, review of Shire of Donnybrook bailing up local emergency management arrangements. Would anyone like to move the committee recommendation? Sorry, Councillor Bailey. Would anyone like to second? Councillor Patrick. Councillor Bailey, would you like to speak to the motion? No. Councillor Patrick. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? All in favour? Carried. Item 9.1.9, development application P23013, reception centre and camping area, lot 3245 Donnybrook Boyup Brook Road in Yabberup. Would anyone like to move the executive recommendation? Councillor Lindeman? Is there a seconder? Councillor Mitchell? Councillor Patrick? Sorry, seconder Councillor Patrick. Councillor Mitchell, would you like to speak to the recommendation? Sorry, Councillor Lindeman, I do apologise.
Yes, I will speak to this recommendation. I did take the time to go and have a look at the site, much further inland from the road than I expected, nothing to view as far as buildings or houses or anything like that. It's a project for a tourism-based low environmental impact function centre with guest camping on a ground that's set back from the road. The two people that we met on site still maintain their enthusiasm for the project, although they are frustrated with all the red tape over 3 years of planning, lengthy submissions, and all the money going in and no money coming out. And it's telling and it's wearying on them, which I can see. When governments, local or otherwise, want to bolster tourism and encourage innovative, visionary projects that attract revenue from outside the area, then we need to do our best to make this a more seamless task. I note in Tuesday's West Australian, the front page headline read, "A win for common sense," as the Premier and ratepayer in this Shire announces a new plan to cut bureaucracy that is strangling our new economy. Proposed legislative amendments would force faster assessments for proposals of state significance, it says. This demonstrates that even at a state level, approvals are slow and cumbersome. However, making change is achievable. As a Shire, I would like us to work together to help enterprise make things happen. As long as, of course, they are aligned with our strategic community and council plans, I will support the Executive Officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Patrick, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thanks for that. Look, in relation to supporting the motion, from my point of view, the role of the councillor in relation to planning requests is to review each application on its own merits. Appreciating the cumulative impact of this application in conjunction with the approved application for the extraction operation at the same site is likely to cause concern for the community. However, I do note that the 30 conditions outlined in the approval of the extraction activity will be required to be met if that development is to proceed, as it hasn't been appealed, and many of these conditions are designed to reduce the impact of the activities on the surrounding areas. As in addition to that, there are additional conditions for this particular development, and in order for the development to proceed, the applicant is going to be required to meet all of those conditions as well, if it's approved. The actual development of the site is for tourism and was identified as one of the top 3 priorities in the market community scorecard for the Shire, and that's why I support this proposal. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Glover?
Was there anyone else speaking for it before I start? No? Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank the officers who have been working diligently on this report, and it's clear from all the information that's been provided in the current report as it stands, they've been working very hard towards getting this approval for the development. And I'd also like to acknowledge that a development like this takes diligence on behalf of the proponent, and that there have been numerous assessments undertaken as a result. I am, however, concerned of the discrepancies between the number of patrons ranging from 100 to 250 per event, and the types of events, because it states there that the events will mainly be weekends and advertising for 2-day events with camping. But then I've noted that it also says that it's not restricted to weekends only, and that there will be weekday events, camps, school functions, executive function, corporate functions, etc. This will impact obviously on wastewater disposal, additional traffic to and from the development, and how it will coincide with the other applications that have been approved with conditions or pending. So basically, the application says that it will, although it will be running alongside the extractive industry, it said that the extractive industry will cease when they are, when events on However, the events are also going to be on during the week as well, so it's not clear how that will actually look and how they will work together. So my other concerns are in regard to noise pollution assessments as well, and the lack of consultation with the surrounding community as well. When I stood for council, I based my campaign on being accountable, being transparent, and holding community consultation and being open and honest to the community. And I'm not convinced that this project in its current form meets these objectives. And I would rather, I'd like to defer this item until such time as there are certain requirements being met. I guess I'm not sure of the process here, but I would like to make an amendment or change the motion as well to deferring this item until there are concerns in the application and the incongruence with the assessment have been met.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Do we need to get that typed up?
I just need to check the meeting procedures because I don't think you can speak against the item and then move deferral. You need to move the deferral up front, but just bear with me a moment. No, but you're moving it direct opposite. It seems to be silent, but the normal process would be if you're going to speak, if you want a deferral, you'd move that off the bat. But because I can't find it, then I'd suggest you proceed with the item. Everyone's heard what I've had to say.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Thank you, CEO. Now we need to get that amendment written up. Is that correct?
Yep.
Could you read your amendment again so that Sam can capture that? Please, Councillor Glover.
If I might, for Councillor Glover, the wording would need to be along the lines that this item be deferred to another time and place, and you need to give a reason why that proposal is now being put before the council. Perhaps the words are on the screen might help you.
Number one would be further community consultation.
You don't need three, you only need to give a reason.
Yeah, I want to do more than that though, because I had a bit more about it. With regard to the scope. Sorry, I apologise. I'd like to add the clarity around the scope for the camping grounds. And a noise pollution assessment, which would, acoustic noise assessment.
In relation to the last item, I just need to alert you to the fact that that is already a condition of the existing proposal. So it might be tenuous to ask that now. So if I can say that in the first instance. And second, I need to make you aware, as per the advice I've given in the last couple of days, this application is now outside of the 90-day period. So the applicant has right to go to SAT.
And
can we?
am I debating this with
No,
the CEO? Is that correct? Am I debating now
No.
with this? No?
No, not yet. Okay. I will ask that question in a moment. So you've moved your amendment. Would anyone like to second that?
About the noise, the acoustic noise assessment.
Well done. Thank you, Sam. Well done. Would anyone like to second that amendment, motion?
Through the chair, I'll second that for just to open up debate.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Councillor Glover, would you like to speak to your motion?
Whilst I do understand that there is a 90-day limit on development applications, with this item has only been on the table for us councillors for a very short time. I'm not sure how the other timeframes, or how long the application has been relevant for, because as Councillor Lindeman had said that, and I was unaware of that this has been actually floating around for a number of years. It hasn't been presented to council, except for at the last agenda briefing. When we got notice of this agenda, we were unaware that this item was coming forward. When the Commissioner handed over to council, when we formed council, she did not hand over any idea that this application was going to come forward. So it's a really new application for us. It's a lot of information to process, and it potentially has a lot of impact on the community. And if the community were aware of actually what the scope is and what it looks like, and that due diligence has been done, I'm sure that they would embrace this program, this project. It's not a bad project. I think it's a really good project, and I think it brings a lot of value to our community. However, we just need to make sure that due diligence is done prior to setting someone up and then having them fail. So, and with the community, having them know what it is and what it isn't will really help them embrace this project, as opposed to be feeling like there's something else happening to their community that they have no control over. So I would like to, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Councillor Bailey, would you like to speak to the amendment?
Through the chair, look, I feel on some of these things exactly the same. Unfortunately, time has caught up with us, and council only had the proposition for 9 days. Staff have done a brilliant job on it. Only a few months ago, we were talking to ratepayers, trying to get a vote to be here, and we spoke to them about open accountability, honesty, and I think and there's nobody to blame for that, because we've been on a very tight time frame. But I'd like to see us have more consultation with the people, and I believe there are gaps and discrepancies in the
Excuse me, Councillor Bailey. Thank you. Can you continue?
No, that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? For against? Thank you, Councillor Patrick.
Yeah, thanks, President. So my only concerns around going for the deferral, so the queries that were raised, things like the discrepancies around the number of people attending. I do appreciate there are discrepancies. However, the recommendation from the officer stipulates the number, so it actually, from my perspective, puts a lid on those discrepancies. So whilst there are differing amounts, there is a recommendation there. Same with things like wastewater. Whilst there might not be a clear outline within the proposal, if the proposal was to get up, the wastewater requirements will be based on environmental health requirements and the requirements from the planning office. So for me, not a technical expert, there is a requirement that all of those things will be assessed come the actual approval or progression to development or building. Same with caravan and camping, there's a requirement for the licences and so on through that area. So I'm of the opinion that those things are covered. The acoustic noise assessment, if we're looking to defer this for 8 weeks moving into the Christmas period, the likelihood of getting an acoustic noise assessment between now and an 8-week period, I would suggest would be rather limited. But at the same time, generally with a development, you know, as has been noted, the acoustic assessment is done just prior to the application for the development of the physical property or the build itself, and at which point, you know, the requirements of that acoustic assessment are put into place then. So I'm not supportive of deferring the motion based on those points.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? I would like to just get one question, please, CEO. Can you help me understand the absolute ramifications of deferring this?
The rights sit with the applicant because they lodged the current application. The original application was lodged way back in March. This current application, as amended, was lodged in September, so the 90-day period has run out only on the weekend. The situation is that once that 90-day period has moved or not been met, the applicant has the opportunity to go to SAT, and then the council loses control of anything to do with this item, if they choose to do that. The applicant could choose to await reconsideration by the council, as is proposed by the deferral motion. But what happens is once it's go to SAT, they may or may not apply all of the conditions that you've currently got in the report before you. We have no control over that.
Thank you, CEO. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? We will put it to vote. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Sorry, Councillor Glover, my apologies.
Like I said before, the development is certainly an asset for our community, and I know that venues such as this are definitely in need, but it does appear that the scope the proponents provided to the assessors for waste and traffic management are just incongruent with the application. It's hard to understand how that happened or why that happened. And that is more around the number of attendees and also the days of operation. These incongruences make the application scope difficult to interpret, and as I would like to find out more about that before approving it. And I believe my role as a councillor is to ensure accountability, and that goes for applications. For me, whilst I understand that there is a 90-day limit on the development, it's only been on the table for a shorter period of time, and my belief or opinion is that that current application as it stands would not be approved. This is my opinion by SAT, but I am stand to be corrected. I would propose that this item is deferred until a site, that part I didn't get a chance to go out and have a site visit because it was under such short notice, so I wasn't able to do that because the site visit was only offered a couple of days prior. Well, it was yesterday. So, yeah. So I'm not convinced that this application is appropriate as it stands.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. And now we'll put it to vote. All in favour? So Councillor Glover and Councillor Bailey? And all against? That's...
The substantive motion.
What is the opposite for carried? Lost. The motion is lost. Now we go back to the substantive motion.
Through the chair, could I propose an amendment to the substantive motion?
Thank you, Councillor
that may,
Bailey.
that may cover all the things. Look, I believe also this is a good project. Time constraints have been tough. The staff have done a great job. I believe we should accept this with all the recommendations. There are gaps and discrepancies, but I'd also like to include in that we continue with community consultation by way of a meeting at the Aberrup Hall, providing all data and answers as far as possible to all questions. And I think it's going to take some time for the proponent to get these other things done, and we can run this in the background at the same time to completely inform the ratepayers in that area.
And what was your amendment? Sorry, Councillor Bailey, I might have just...
Exactly that we accept the recommendations as they are. I think they're good recommendations, but we add in that we continue to consult with the public in that area by way of a meeting at the Aberrup Hall.
That we continue...
Providing all data.
That we continue to consult...
Yes.
Let me capture this.
So even if we give it approval today, the acoustic reports and everything else aren't going to be done in 5 minutes. But I think this just brings the public along with us, and we explain it. You know, it gets to a stage where there'll be things that council can't control, but there'll be other things we can talk about and kick around.
So everything else stays the same. You'd like to add that we continue to consult with the community of updates.
Councillor Bailey, can I just try this wording? That the council continue to inform the community of updates on the conditions of the application that has been approved.
Along those lines, but I'd like it to say in there there's going to be a meeting at the Aberrup. I'd like to see the meeting at the Aberrup Hall to provide all the information to people.
Does it need to be that specific?
Well, I think it needs to be that
Okay.
specific, yes, because that's the intent, is to be specific.
Continued. I'm not sure how we do this, but anyway. Right. That the council continue to inform the community of the updates on the conditions of the application that have been approved, and that a meeting be held at the Aberrup Hall to update on the project.
First part of that is I accept the recommendations as they are.
Yeah, you're moving an amendment.
That's an
So it'd be
amendment, yeah.
15. Yeah,
That's all.
Okay. Sorry. Sorry? Yeah, yep.
We just need to place this now in the right section
Yeah.
on the recommendations.
So instead of being condition 15, it'll have to be within the report, because it's not a condition of approval, it's a request. So it would read, the start of the recommendation would be that the council A pursuant, and then all the list items 1 through 14, and then B will be the item that we've just put up there. Thank you.
Would someone like to, is that appropriate now, Councillor Bailey? Okay. Would someone like to second that amendment?
Could-
Councillor Gubler? Councillor Bailey, do you want to speak to the motion?
Yeah, through the chair. Councillors, I think this is going to be a great project, and I think this will be the best outcome. We get to move the project forward, and we also get to bring the people with us. Now, it was only a few months ago that we were looking for a vote, and we said to the people we'd listen to them and talk to them. I think this is going to be a great start for that process, and I urge you to pass this amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Councillor Gubler?
Yes, I think it's important to add that condition to the project. It is a good project out there, and I think we need to be in control of it to so that we fall inside that 90-day period, so that they don't go up to that. So I commend the addition of that attachment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gubler. Would anyone like to speak against this motion? Councillor Mitchell?
Yeah, I'm going to speak against, because I'm quite sure the proponents are watching in online, and I'm sure they've got the message very loud and clear to communicate with the community. There is, as Councillor Glover mentioned, there is a massive amount of information already there. So I believe that we should vote against. I urge you to vote against this motion, because I think the proponent should be able to engage with the community in the way they see best. And I think that is far too prescriptive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion?
I have a question. When you talk of continual to inform the community, is that only via the Yaburrup Hall update? Is that once a month, a week, a year? Just a little bit loose for me to know. It's a nice thing to say, but how would we do it? Like, is there a plan or something in place? I'm just trying to squeeze it down a little more so people feel secure about knowing they're going to be informed.
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. I think as the amendment is just being put up, there's not a plan to carry out the visit to Yaburrup Hall, but I'm sure that we can organise that quite, it won't be an ordinary council meeting, but it would probably just be a trek out there and with councillors to update, like a little town meeting. Or similar, open to whatever the suggestions are at the time. Councillor Glover?
I'm wondering, just following on Councillor Lindeman's comment, if we can add just one, change one word with that and make it approved meeting has been including a meeting. So like we continue to update our community, but have it included as a meeting as well to let the people or the community of Yabarup know, so that it's not just privy to the people of Yabarup, it's actually all of our Donnybrook Balingup Shire. So if we could put the application has been approved and includes a meeting at Yabarup, something like that would actually probably work in that way. So we can keep on including through Shire updates and through the Preston Press, etc., but also hold a meeting or an information day at Yabarup Hall to further let them know that that how the application is progressing.
Are you proposing an amendment?
Just one word.
Just a moment, please.
One option, Madam President, would be for the mover and the seconder to agree, if they wish, that after the words "be approved," so Council continues to inform the community of the updates on the conditions of the application that have been approved, including a meeting being held at the Yabarup Hall to update the community. That way I think we get Councillor Glover's and we capture what Councillor Bailey was trying to achieve.
So, Councillor Bailey, is that...
Through the Chair,
accepted?
that's excellent, and I thank the CEO for his words.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch
I said that is
Councillor Glover and Councillor Patrick, I can't hear what's happening.
I said that is excellent, and I thank the CEO for his words.
Thank you. Councillor Gubler?
Yes, I'm happy with that change. It's only just a minor change.
Thank you, Councillor Gubler. Are there any other councillors wanting to speak for or against the motion?
I'm going to speak for, only because I think this is important to move ahead, and these people have invested a lot of time, money, and I'd like to see it move ahead. And if this is something that does that and helps bring the community along, then I certainly support it.
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. Anyone else like to speak to this motion? We'll put it to... Oh, sorry, Councillor Bailey, to close.
Through the Chair, the right of reply. Councillors, I'm pleased that you're doing this. We were elected by the people to represent the people, and I think we can do that very well. And we may be able to mitigate, not on the proponents, but on our side of things, we may be able to mitigate any problems they think that are going to come up in the future. So I think it's a good conversation and it's a good way to start. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. We'll put this to vote. All in favour? That's Councillor Bailey, Councillor Gubler, Councillor Lindeman, Councillor Patrick, Councillor Glover and myself.
Yes.
Yes, you are. Yep. And against? Councillor Mitchell. It's carried.
So now we go to the substantive motion.
Now we go to the substantive motion as amended.
Moved.
Councillor Bailey is moving the motion. Councillor Gubler second. Councillor Bailey, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Councillor Gubler? We can put that to vote, unless you'd like to close the debate. We'll put that to vote. All in favour? Thank you. Carried. That takes us on to 9.1.10, change of use, Holiday House, lot 502, brackets 1016, Charlie Creek Road, Thompson Brook. Can I call for someone to move the executive recommendation? Sorry, Councillor Patrick. Would someone like to second it? Councillor Bailey. Councillor Patrick, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, not particularly. I'm happy with what's in the recommendation. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey.
Likewise.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak against the motion? Councillor Lindeman?
Hi. I feel like I'm going to do an Anne Mitchell here. I'm going to do an Anne Mitchell, which is often talking against and for all in the one go. But I have put forward an amendment which I now withdraw. Okay, so there was something that I wanted removed, and I would like to talk. I'm not sure how I put this. It's for the motion, but there is just something that I wanted to make note of, and I'm going to speak to that. Okay. So on this one, I support it, but I want to make note that I do not wish to see penalties handed out in every case for retrospective approvals. Can I do this? Yeah? Okay.
Should we ask, would it be helpful if I ask the question of
Sure.
Director of Operations to explain the fee that has been applied?
No, I understand it.
Would anyone else like that explained?
I have no question. It's
Oh, yes, please.
not a question.
Sorry, what was that?
I don't
Councillor?
have a question for that,
Okay.
for the fee.
Go ahead then, sorry.
Okay. I just want to, I'm going to support the motion, but I want to make note that I do not wish to see penalties handed out in every case of retrospective approvals. I don't want that to become a habit. This may end up applying to everything from roadside signage, food and fruit stalls, shipping containers, lean-tos for wood stacks, pergolas, cubby houses in trees, or cafes without all abilities toilet facilities. So we live in a free-spirited country environment with a unique lifestyle not found in the city, and there are many reasons why residents choose to be here. So I don't want to see a city-like big stick approach in a country town. And I'll draw to you today, on my way home from the site visit, I picked myself up some red grape juice, $8. There's no nutritional information in there. Could have been alcohol, could have been anything. It was a roadside sign, handwritten. I loved it, I bought it. They got their money, I'm happy. It's the charm of the country. I don't want to come down hard on every single person that ever did anything here in a country environment that has big city rules. That's all I've got to say, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. Now, I will ask the question to have that fee explained. Director of Operations?
Thank you, Madam President. If I may, I'd like to invite our brand new Manager of Development Services up to the front, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Day 3 for Michelle Dennis, so welcome Michelle, please come along. But Michelle has a wealth of knowledge in planning, health and building, and has actually prepared a response previously for me. But I think it would be good for Michelle to actually come up and talk to you about it, and also give you an opportunity to say hello. So welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Director and Madam President and Council. It's great to be here. So I take on board the comment from councillors in relation to the penalty fee. Yes, we're in a country area, but local government's responsible for enforcing a lot of state legislation. And because of that, the legislation that the state government hand out, in this case, the fees. So the fees are set under the planning and development regulations. And in your annual budget every year, you consider your fees in line with those different provisions under those various other acts, in this case, the planning legislation. So the wording itself, if I can just refer to this, in your fees and charges, which I had to look up this morning because I hadn't got a budget yet, is determining a development application other than for an extractive industry where the development has commenced or has been carried out, the relevant fee in item, which is an item above it, plus by way of penalty, twice that fee. And I guess the idea around is to encourage people to come to council first and not just do something and then ask for forgiveness. So it is in accordance with your fees and charges, and Shire staff weren't aware that this particular application was essentially retrospective until they advertised it and got some feedback from a neighbour who provided a copy of the Airbnb advertisement. So at the time of the application, so normally these fees would be paid at the time of the application, but at that time, Shire staff weren't aware that it was retrospective. So we don't have the ability to waive the fee, but if council wants to, that's entirely up to you.
Thank you.
Answer your question?
Thank you.
It's okay.
And welcome.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak to this motion?
If I can.
Councillor Glover?
Oh, thank you, sorry. I'm again meeting procedure. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going with this, but I would like to make a small amendment to this item as well. The reason for that is, like, while I'm the same, I'm not in favour of policing or being, you know, the big stick approach to things. I think that community education is actually more valuable, so that people are actually just aware of what the guidelines are and what it is. I myself didn't even know that this was something that needed to happen. Not that I'm doing it, but I wasn't aware. And I'm wondering if the people who had done this application, if they were actually aware at the time and then have done it retrospectively. So my small amendment that I was hoping to pop in there was just to instruct the CEO to promote or to advise of the requirement for applications for short-term holiday homes to be approved by the Shire of Donnybrook Barlingup, and failure to do so may attract a penalty. So it just means that people are aware that these guidelines are there and that they are there for a reason, and then that would then prevent other people from falling into the same kind of error, and then it would also free up all the time that's been spent on this because it would have been done at the time of the application. So my amendment is to instruct the CEO to advise of the requirement for application.
Sorry, can you say that again? Instruct.
Can I just pose a question first? This is about an application. If you want to do a campaign, we need to do that outside of this application. I'm more than happy to take on board what you're saying, and we can have that cranked up within 2 weeks. You don't need to instruct me, but it's not appropriate to have it in this, because this is a specific application. You're talking about a general organisation-wide program, so we should do that as a separate item, not as a tack on to a condition of approval.
And that would just be an operational, marketing operational.
I can liaise with you in the next few days about it, or anyone else for that matter, about how we might do that. I'm not arguing or trying to dissuade you from doing the action. I'm just saying to do it in this is not the appropriate way to do it.
Councillor Glover, do you still want to put your amendment forward?
Well, I understand that it is a general comment. I guess that it's just something that ends up clarifying what happens in these actions as well, because, like I said, the people, it just helps clarify everything for everyone to continue to have. It's just, I understand that it's not...
Councillor Glover, the
yes.
question is, though, do you want to make the amendment?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Can you reword that for us, please?
Instruct the CEO to advise the requirement for all applications for short-term holiday homes to be approved by the Shire of Donnybrook Barlingup, and
Can you
failure
slow it down a bit because Sam's trying to type with you? Instruct the CEO to advise
the requirement for all applications for short-term holiday homes to be approved by the Shire of Donnybrook Barlingup, failure to comply. Oh, after Donnybrook Barlingup it was a comma. Fail to comply may result in a penalty.
Thank you. Would anyone like to second that amendment? Councillor Bailey? Councillor Glover, would you like to speak to your amendment?
Like to just confirm that, like, I'm not in favour of having to police things, but I think taking the shortcut and having people educated and understanding what's required by the Shire of Donnybrook bailing up will actually cut a corner and help people to, with the process of complying with what's required.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Councillor Bailey?
No, just confirm what was said. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Patrick?
So against the motion, the
You can
proposed
speak
amendment?
against the motion.
Yeah, I look more or less in line with what the CEO said. From my understanding and perspective, it's not related to this specific application. It is a generalised education piece, for want of anything else. It's not directly specific to this application, and in fact, it would actually be past tense for this application because they've already now been informed of it and they're aware of it. So in relation to the very specific application in front of us, I don't feel that that amendment is warranted or even makes sense, to be fair. So
Thank you,
not
Councillor
supportive.
Patrick. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Okay. Oh, Councillor Lindemann?
Well, I'd like to speak against the motion.
Yes.
And just that I feel that that's been now used as a tool and as an example, and I don't think that that needs to happen to this applicant.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Councillor Mitchell? Sorry. Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Would anyone like to speak against the motion?
I'd speak against the motion because I believe that this is something that shouldn't be attached to this item, and I also would like to see Councillor Lindemann's suggestion workshopped and brought to our attention, and particularly when we get around to the budget for Councillor Lindemann. So I'd absolutely speak against this motion because I think should become a separate item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Speak against? Councillor Glover, would you like to close the debate?
Well, after hearing that, it doesn't sound like it's a very favourable idea, but I do believe that going forward, just helping to upskill people in this area would certainly avoid a lot more consequences in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else? Oh, I can't. We're closed. Sorry. We'll put that to vote. The amendment to vote. All in favour? Against? It's so Councillor Glover in favour, and then all against. So that's what's the word for?
That's lost.
Sorry, that's lost. So we go back to the original motion. Sorry, Manager Corporate Services, can you please remind me of who moved and who seconded the original motion?
Councillor Patrick, who gets the call?
Councillor Patrick, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, nothing more than I already have, thanks.
And who seconded?
Councillor Bailey.
Councillor Bailey?
Actually, I wasn't speaking to the motion. I just wanted a clarification, but maybe now's not the right time.
Thank you. And now we'll put that substantive motion to vote. All in favour? Against? Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Bailey,
That's-
I can't see your vote. Against or for? For it, okay.
So I think it was just... that's carried. Councillor Bailey, have I missed something you needed?
Sorry?
Did I miss you asking
No,
a question?
not at all. No,
Okay.
I was just wondering, I didn't get Michelle's surname, but she said that the fine was a state law, is that correct? Okay. Well, you know, normally I'm for laws, but we've got a document we've dealt with today where substantial fines could have been applied and they weren't. So I have a problem with, and we're not playing on a level playing ground, that's all.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Okay. So item 9.2, Director of Finance, sorry. 9.2. 9.2, Director of Finance and Corporate. Item 9.2.1, Accounts for Payment, November 2023. Can I have someone move the executive recommendation? Councillor Goobler, getting tired. Would anyone like to second? Councillor Bailey. Councillor Goobler, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, it's all okay.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Anyone else like to speak to or from? Okay, all in favour? Carried. Item 9.2.2, Monthly Financial Report, October 23 and November 23. Would anyone like to move the executive recommendation? Councillor Patrick. Second. Councillor Mitchell. Councillor Patrick, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Mitchell? Okay. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.3, the Chief Executive Officer. Item 9.3.1, Establishment, Chief Executive Officer, Recruitment and Performance Review Committee.
Yes.
We'll have Director of Operations and Director of Finance and Corporate will be leaving the room, and also thank you. And before we proceed to the executive recommendation, I just wanted to note that there was a change to point 2, where it was a correction, where the amendment now reads 9.3.1, brackets 1. Thank you. Would anyone like to move the executive recommendation? Councillor Bailey, second. Councillor Glover. Councillor Bailey, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Councillor Glover.
I don't, except for that there's just a bit of a typo on the attachment.
Would you like to identify it?
It's point 6.1, the number of officers. It's officers and not officers because it seems like buildings rather than...
Thank you. Noted. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? We'll put that to vote. Oh no, so we'll close the debate. Councillor Bailey?
No, thanks.
Thank you. We'll put that to vote. All in favour? It's carried. So item 10, elected member motions of which previous notice has been given. There are no elected member motions. Item 11, new business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of the meeting. There is no new business of an urgent nature.
Excuse me, Chair.
Councillor Bailey?
Thank you. There was nothing before that we've got a party in the paddock which I know nothing about, and I'm extremely concerned about. I asked for a briefing today. Is that at all possible?
Sorry, Councillor Bailey, can you just point that mic up to you
sorry.
a bit better? Thank you.
We've got a party in the paddock which I'm extremely concerned about, fire danger and access and safety of people. I've asked for a briefing. Can we get a briefing on that today, please?
Can I just get some advice on that, please, Councillor Bailey? Are you happy for us to do that at the end of the meeting?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. I think we're at item 11, new business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of the meeting. There are no new business items of an urgent nature. Item 12, meetings closed to the public, and we have none. Item 13, closure. Okay. The next agenda briefing session will be on Wednesday, the 21st of February 2024. commencing at 5 p.m. in the Shire of Donnybrook Balingup Council Chamber. I now declare the meeting closed at 6:39 p.m.